Hello racing fans, welcome to a special episode of the big Group 1 racing show for the racing season of 2016/17. Now today I'm previewing the biggest race in Australia, one of the biggest races in the world, and that is the race that stops the nation, the Melbourne Cup. It's going to be a beauty race this year, as it always is, so let's not muck around, let's get straight into it. So of course, as always, the Melbourne Cup will be held on the first Tuesday of November at the traditional time of 3 PM at one of the best race courses in the world, and that is the Flemington race course. Now you can watch all the Melbourne Cup action on 7. They do an absolute terrific job. They're the best in the business in my opinion when it comes to Melbourne Cup coverage. So tune into 7 on Tuesday. Racing.com, the other free-to-air channel, will also have the Melbourne Cup covered. Sky Racing 1 also has the race as well. Now of course the race will be ran over the 3200 metre distance. As we have a look at the odds, you can see there that Hartnell is the well-deserved favourite at $6. Oceanographer, of course, won the Lexus on Saturday on Derby Day, second favourite at $8, which is a little bit surprising, but it's not surprising in a way because it was a fantastic run. Jamaica is at $8.50. Bondi Beach is at $10. On $17 we have Heartbreak City, Almaden, and also Big Orange. At $19 we have Wicklow Brave. Esopheric is at $21. At $26 we have the Geelong Cup winner a couple of Wednesdays ago, Query, and also a Moonquiff. We then have Curran Marotic at $35. Grey Line at $41, as well as Who Shot the Barman, Secret Number, and Grant Marshall. Our Ivanhoe is at $51. At $81 we have Beautiful Romance and Galanti. At $71 we have A Sign. Access Knowledge is at $101, as well as Sir John Hawkford. Pentathlon is at $151, and then at $301 we have the New Zealand horse Rose of Virginia. So that is the field of 24 horses. 11 of those are international horses. So let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into looking at the field in depth. Number 1, we have Big Orange, who is an international horse trained by Michael Bell. James Spencer will take the ride. The horse is coming out of barrier 17. It was in the Melbourne Cup last year. You might remember it came 5th out of the 24 horse field. Since then it's had 4 runs, and 2 of those it placed in, and 2 of those, which has been its last 2 starts, it has won. Now its last start over the 3200 metre distance, just over the 3200 metre distance, was in the Goodwood Cup. Wicklow Brace, who was in this field, was also in that race. Big Orange beat it and actually won that day. And yeah, I guess it's good because we know that it can run over the 3200 metres and win. It's actually been a good form, I think, since the Melbourne Cup last year, to have placed in 2 of those and won the other 2. The only concern for me is that it's carrying 57 kilos, and no horse has done that in the Melbourne Cup since Maccabi Diva in 2005. Put that aside though, I think this horse is a very genuine contender to be up the front. Do not rule it out. Consider it. It is a very good chance, I reckon. Number 2, we have Our Ivanhoe. Came 10th in last year's Melbourne Cup. Has only won 1 race since then. Its last run in the Caulfield Cup, it closed in to claim 6th place. It was a pretty... it wasn't able to really get up there until it came down the straight and came down with some very, very good speed. So it did well to get 6th in the end. The form suggests that it definitely has the potential to claim a top 10 finish, maybe a top 15 finish if you don't really want to put him in your top 10. But it should be possibly in there in the first half of the field. Number 3, we have another international horse in Curran Marotic, a Japanese horse who is coming to the Melbourne Cup, having not won a race for just about 3 years nearly, which is very, very sensational. And, you know, it came second over the 3200 metres, 3 starts back in the Tino Show Sprint race. Besides that though, it's hard to find a reason how this horse can win. It actually hasn't won past the 2,000 metres, so I have a bit of doubts for this horse. I don't reckon it will do as well. Tommy Berry has the ride for this race, and it's coming out of barrier 18. Number 4, we have Bondi Beach, another international horse who is trained by Aidan O'Brien, will be jockeyed by Ryan Moore. That's a very, very popular combination actually, the O'Brien and Moore combo. It's coming out of barrier 5, has won its next 2 races actually after its Melbourne Cup run last year, where it came 16th out of the 24 horses. Of course, it's been 3rd in its last 2. They've both been just over the 2,400 metre distance. Apparently it had some very solid work at Werribee, especially since its arrival. So with some strong performances in Ireland, it's coming to the Melbourne Cup in some good form. It's definitely a very big consideration as a chance. I reckon it will be up there, a possible top 5 contender, definitely a top 10 contender. Number 5, we have Exopheric, another international horse who was in the Caulfield Cup in its last start. It came 3rd with a very strong finish down the straight. In fact, it was the fastest 1,200 and 1,000 metre time of the Caulfield Cup. It was a very, very good finish, and it did well to claim 3rd. Maybe with the extra few metres it might have just got Jamaica, but that's probably doubtful. With Damien Oliver on board though, I think this horse has a very, very good chance of doing well. Of course, it's trained by Lee and Anthony Freedman, and I guess the query is about the 3,200 metres, whether it can go the full distance, but I think it's a major chance. I think it's up there. Definitely consider it. Number 6, we have the favourite in Hartnell, who has been in absolutely terrific form this season. 3 of its last 5, it's come 1st, and the other 2, it came 2nd. Of course, it smashed Jamaica and all the other field in the Turnbull Stakes in its last run at Flemington. It was the day after the AFL Grand Final, and then its last run in the Cox Plate. It did come 2nd, but it wasn't disgraced. Of course, Winks, we know, a step above Hartnell, no doubt about that. Winks is just one of the champions at the moment, but Hartnell, I think it's had a great build-up to this race. It's a bit like Ferrente back in 2013. It actually ran in the same races, except it came 4th in the Turnbull and 3rd in the Cox Plate in the lead up to the Melbourne Cup, and then what did it do? It went on to win. So it's well-deserved favourite. It's definitely the big chance, and I'd be backing it, I reckon. Hopefully I haven't given a spoiler away there, but it's definitely one of the big, big chances in the Melbourne Cup. Number 7, we have Who Shot the Barman, a Chris Waller trained horse, will be jockeyed by Huey Bowman. Of course, had a great weekend on Saturday, winning on Flying Artie, and also La Roman on Derby Day in the 2 Group 1s there. This horse though, Who Shot the Barman, came 2nd in the MV Cup, and actually a couple of years ago, it finished 3rd in the Melbourne Cup, and then last year finished 11th. It can go the 3,200 metres. It can run a big race at this distance, but you know, at the odds it's at $41. I don't think it's going to be there in the top 10. It might be in the back end of the field. Of course, it is 8 years old now. Number 8, we have Wicklow Brave coming out of barrier 24, which is a pretty unfortunate gate for this horse. Of course, it would have probably been up there in the odds. Of course, it's backed at the moment by $19. I reckon it would have been a short price if it had drawn a better gate. But nonetheless, it's been racing very consistently in group races in Europe recently, so it comes to the Melbourne Cup with some good form. 4th in the Goodwood Cup, of course. Big Orange won that, but since then it's come 3rd and 1st. One of those was over the 3,000 metre distance. The other one, which was its last start, it came. It actually won over the 2,000 metre distance, 2,800 metre distance to be exact. The barrier is a little bit of a concern, but it's definitely a roughie to watch out for. It's, like I said, consistent form in the group races, so I would put a $1 each way bet on, to be honest. Number 9, we have a Moon Quiff. Of course, Michael Walker will be the jockey for the Melbourne Cup on this horse, coming out of barrier 19. 4th in the Caulfield Cup. Wasn't a too bad run, actually. And if you want to know a bit of a fact, it's actually a Geelong and Sandown Cup winner of 2015. The Sandown Cup was actually over the 3,200 metres. So it's won over the 3,200 metres before. It could surprise considering its charge home in the Caulfield Cup. Number 10 we have Galante, came 7th in the Moonee Valley Cup a couple of weeks ago on Cox Plate Day. Of course, it actually won the Sydney Cup over the 3,200 metres in April, and of course, like I mentioned, its last start came 7th in the Moonee Valley Cup, where it just went. It led the whole way, and then once it got to the turn, it just dropped off and got lost, to be honest. I think I have some doubts a little bit. I think it has to lift a little bit for this race, no doubt about it. It can't do what it did in the Moonee Valley Cup, or otherwise, it's probably going to end up coming last. So, Blake Shin on board, coming out of barrier 2, you can't rule out. Number 11 we have Grand Marshal, trained by Chris Waller, and had a great win in the Moonee Valley Cup a couple of weeks ago on Cox Plate Day. It just eased up throughout the race, and then once it got down the straight, it was just able to go and beat Who Shot the Barman. It can do it again, no doubt about it. Whether it will win at the race, though, I'm not too sure. I don't think it will. It may just be over the top 10 of the race. It may be in the top 10 of the race. It definitely has that potential. It definitely has the potential to surprise. It's good at the value, $41. Had a good last start. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes. Number 12, we have Jamaica, the Caulfield Cup winner of 2016. Attempts to become the 12th horse to do the Cup double. It's a very hard thing to do, and I give it a chance, I reckon. 2nd in the Turnbull. Of course, Hartnell's going to be its biggest threat, as well as a few other horses. Oceanographer, there's a couple of others as well. Bondi Beach, Heartbreak City. There's a few others I haven't even mentioned yet that have probably can beat it, but I give it a chance. It's going to be up there, I reckon, in the mix early and tough to beat. It's coming out of barrier 3. Number 13, we have another international horse in Heartbreak City. An interesting stat here. It's won 4 of its last 5, and 2 of those were over the 3,200 metre distance. Now, those 2 that had actually won over the 3,200 metre distance, though, was in hurdles, so jumping over fences and stuff, which it puts me off a little bit. But then again, if you can do that, then you might just be able to do it without the hurdles. So this horse looks good on paper. I saw a couple of replays and it looked okay. In its last race, just over the 2,800 metre distance, it looked like it did well. It doesn't really have the group form like some other horses in this field, but I reckon it will go well. I'm giving it a good chance up there. It definitely has the potential to surprise, and it's backed by the punters at $17, which is pretty good at odds for it. So Heartbreak City, I do like Heartbreak City. It looks like a very good international horse. Number 14, we have Sir John Hawkwood. Blake Springs will take the ride. It's coming out of barrier 14. It came first in the Metropolitan a couple of weeks ago, and I expected it to do well in the Caulfield Cup, but it disappointed me, to be honest. It came 10th out of the 16 horses, never really got going, and it's hard to see it do well in this Melbourne Cup. I don't think it will do very well. It is backed by the punters at $101, and rightly so. It just didn't perform in the Caulfield Cup, and I don't think it's much of a chance to get up in the Melbourne Cup. Number 15, we have Gay Waterhouse's Access Knowledge, coming from barrier 21. Came 4th in the Moonee Valley Cup on Cox Plate Day. I've already mentioned Who Shot the Barman and also Grand Marshal, who were the 2 horses that actually beat this horse in that race. Came 3rd in the Bark Cummings over 2,500 metres at Flemington in its last run at Flemington on Turnbull Stakes Day. Its form, though, suggests that it's not really up to the Melbourne Cup standard this year. Now, of course, it was in this race last year and it did come 7th. It's hard to see it doing as well as it did last year, though. I think it's going to be probably after the top 15. Number 16, we have Beautiful Romance, another international trained horse coming out of Barrier 1, which is not a bad barrier. Damien Lane is aboard. Of course, a great win in the Manikato Stakes a couple of weeks ago. It was a big upset, wasn't it, on Rebel Dane. He's coming into this with some upset form, I suppose you could say. Came 3rd last start. Had a good Group 2 win in May, actually. A good international Group 2. I don't really rate it at the 3,200 metres, though. I don't really think it can do very well at this distance, but who knows? It is an international horse. Of course, Damien Lane, as I just mentioned, has already caused an upset this spring. Number 17, we have our Manton. Kira McAvoy is aboard. A jockey change from Damien Oliver, who has been aboard this horse the last 2 starts, and those last 2 starts it's actually won, including its last run, which was an absolute beauty in the Bart Cummings over the 2,500 metres. It resulted in this horse just speeding down the straight and smashing the field. It's as simple as that. I reckon the Melbourne Cup's a lot tougher race, though, than the Bart Cummings. No offence to the Bart Cummings or anything, but it was a good field, but this is definitely going to be tougher. But I do expect it to run a big race. I reckon it's definitely got that top 10 potential, no doubt about it. It should be up there in the top 10 in my opinion. Number 18, we have a sign, a very interesting Melbourne Cup fact to do with the number 18. If a sign wins, it will only become the 2nd horse under the number 18 to have won the Melbourne Cup. But also, with Caitlin Malayan on board, she will also become the 2nd woman to win the Melbourne Cup. Of course, Michelle Payne aboard Prince of Penzance last year. We all know that. And this horse, well, it's coming off a good win in the Herbert Power over the 2,400 metres. It was a good win. The question, though, remains that whether this horse can actually take it up to the quality in the Melbourne Cup. There's a lot of depth in this Melbourne Cup, and whether this horse can take it up to those horses over the 3,200 metre distance is yet to be known. But it could surprise. You never know. Number 19, we have Grey Lion, 2nd in the Geelong Cup a couple of Wednesdays ago. Matt Kamani is the trainer, and Glenn Boss is going to be the jockey for Grey Lion. Barrier 16 is the barrier for this horse, and look, it was a great Geelong Cup run. It came 2nd. It took it up to Query, but the question for me is it ready for the 3,200 metres? And I'm a bit up in the air about that, but you know, you never know. It could surprise. Of course, it is backed by the punters at $41, so the punters not giving it too much of a chance. Number 20, we have Oceanographer. Of course, a great win in the Lexus on Saturday. Before then, it came 3rd in the Geelong Cup. Its sectionals for the last 400 metres of the Lexus was absolutely stunning. So because of that, it is 2nd favourite for this year's Melbourne Cup, which is very, very incredible from a Lexus winner. The query is, though, is that can it back it up and do it again in 3 days' time? Of course, it's coming off just a 3-day break in the Melbourne Cup, and that's going to be the query. But horses have done it before, and I think it will do well. I'm definitely tipping it to be in the top 5. Number 21, we have Secret Number, has come 2nd in the Queen Elizabeth over the 2,600 metre distance at Flemington in November last year, and it has come 1st in the Doonside Cup, which is of course an overseas race. And a lot of people have questioned whether that's a great lead-up race to the Melbourne Cup. And, of course, that was in September, 15th of September 2016. So whether that's a good lead-up race to the Melbourne Cup, I'm not quite sure. But it's in some good form. It's won 3 of its last 5, and the other 2 have been 2nd. So it's in some good form with Stephen Baster on board. You can't rule it out. I reckon it's in the mix. Number 22, we have Pentathlon. A very interesting name for a horse, no doubt about that. It's coming out of Barrier 4. It came 7th in the Lexus out of 12 horses. and its form is not that great before then. It came third in the Moonee Valley Cup, second in a race over 1,500 metres at an unknown race course, and then seventh over the 2,500 metres in the Bart Cummings. So the form suggests that I don't think this horse will be up the front. In fact, I think it will be up in the bottom three. I think this horse, it's just in that form where it's probably not going to be up to the winning or the good standard of doing well in the Melbourne Cup. Number 23, we have Query, the Geelong Cup winner of 2016. I actually didn't expect it to win the Geelong Cup. I thought the distance it had been running and also the hurdles as well. I thought, no way, this horse couldn't win the Geelong Cup, but it surprised me and did very, very well, I thought. It does receive a weight drop for this, which is an important thing to note. But it is going to be a massive step up from the Geelong Cup to the Melbourne Cup, especially distance-wise. Also with Oceanographer, it had Grey Lion trying to come at it. It's going to be a very, very big step up, but it's already surprised me, and it could surprise. Last but not least, we have number 24, Rose of Virginia, 11th in the Lexus on Saturday out of the 12-horse field. Again, I don't think this horse is going to be up in the front runners. In fact, the punters are suggesting that it's probably going to come last. $301, the largest odds of the Melbourne Cup. I have my doubts here. Okay, time now for my tips for the Emirates Melbourne Cup of 2016. I just have to say, I cannot wait for the Melbourne Cup on Tuesday. It's definitely my favourite race. It's just one of those races that is very, very dear to my heart in terms of the sport I love, and there's plenty of other races as well, but there's nothing that beats the Melbourne Cup, and the field is absolutely sensational again this year. But I couldn't go past Hartnell. I went through the whole field, tried to pick out a horse that may be able to beat it, and there is a couple that might be able to, but I just think Hartnell's in some very, very good form. Of course, it came 15th in the Melbourne Cup last year, and then since then it's been able to really put in some good performances. Of course, it came first in the Hill Stakes, and then it won the Turnbull in very fine fashion. Second in the Cox Plate, wasn't disgraced, of course. Look, it's in good form, and like I mentioned before, it's on a similar path, if not the same path, as Ferrante when that horse won it in 2013 for Gay Waterhouse with Damien Oliver on board. That horse actually came second in the Melbourne Cup the year before, came back, actually ran fourth in the Turnbull, ran third in the Cox Plate, ended up winning the Melbourne Cup. Now, of course, Hartnell's won the Turnbull, has been in the Melbourne Cup last year, did come second in the Cox Plate. I think it's on a good road. I think it's had a good lead up, a good preparation. It's ready to run this 3,200 metres, and I think it's going to do it in fine fashion and win. It won't win easy. I reckon it's going to hold off a couple of horses, but it will win, and it will win well, and it will be a good win. And of course, it will be Godolphin's first ever Melbourne Cup win. Second, I've slotted in Heartbreak City. Now, this is a bit of a risk because, I don't know too much about the international horses. I can only go from what I read on paper and then some of the replays that I'll see on various shows. But I think Heartbreak City looks very, very good. It had a good run last start as well, and it's won 4 of its last 5 and actually won its last 3. So it's in some good form. Of course, like I mentioned before, 2 of those last 3 wins have been over the 3,200 metres. However, they were in hurdles, but I'm not going to disgrace that. I'm going to give it a chance. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to put it as second. I think it's going to come second in the Melbourne Cup. And then third, I've got Oceanographer. I can't go past this horse's run on Saturday in the Lexus on Derby Day. It was a fantastic run. Its Geelong Cup run was pretty good as well. It came smashing home. Of course, it didn't win it, but it came third in fine fashion. Like I mentioned, its sectional time for its last 400 metres in the Lexus was sensational. The only query, of course, is whether it can back it up in the 3-day time frame that it has off. But and also I heard on Racing.com that this horse hasn't really done this before, so it's going to be a bit of a test. but I think it will do well and it will come third. I don't think it will win it, but it will come third and it will go close to winning it, I reckon. So Oceanographer is third for me. And then finally we have my 4th placed horse. Yes, I'm going to give you a top 4 today, and I've got Jamaica as 4th. Oh look, it was a great Caulfield Cup win, no doubt about it, but there's a lot more quality in my eye in this race. There was a lot of quality in the Caulfield Cup, but I think this race is going to be ran a bit differently, the Melbourne Cup as opposed to the Caulfield Cup, and it is very hard to do the Cup double, but this horse has got the potential to do it, but I don't think it will. I think it will come 4th and it will go close to doing it. So look, it's had a great couple of months though, and especially a great season. Of course, winning the Naturalism, of course, 2nd in the Turnbull, did very well in that though, despite getting smashed by Hartnell. It did smash all the other field, and then 1st in the Caulfield Cup. But I'm just going to place it at 4th. I think there's, like I said, it will be in the front early. It will be tough to beat, but I think it will just be beaten. It'll be a close race, I reckon, for top 5 in general. And then finally, we've got my roughies of the race. I'm going to give you 2 today because it's a very large field. So I'll start with my first roughie, and that is Big Orange. There's not really a very good history in terms of horses coming back and doing well in the Melbourne Cup after their first run. Of course, we've seen it with horses such as Red Cadeau, etc. But I think this horse has been building ever since its run last year in the Melbourne Cup, Big Orange. I think 5th, and then in its last 4 starts coming 2nd, 3rd, and then in its last 2 1st. With one of them over the 3,200 metres. I think it's a great build-up, and I think it's been building towards this very moment. I think it's had some good preparation, and I'm going to slot it in as a roughie. I think it's one to watch out for. At the odds it's at $17, you could possibly go a couple of bucks each way, in my opinion. So Big Orange, roughie, one of the roughies of the race for me in the Melbourne Cup. And then my other roughie for the Melbourne Cup is number 8, Wicklow Brave. Of course, Big Orange actually beat this horse in its last start. That was actually 3 starts back for this horse, because since then it's come 3rd and 1st in its last 2 races. I think this is a horse to watch out for. It's definitely a roughie for me. Barrier 24 is the concern, and that's probably why they're writing it off, is because of the barrier. But you know, it's a 3,200 metre race. It's got plenty of time to get into a good position going down the straight, and if it can do just that, then it might surprise some people, especially the punters. So Big Orange and Wicklow Brave are my 2016 Melbourne Cup roughies. And that is it for this episode of the Big Group 1 Racing Show. Thank you very much for tuning in and watching my Melbourne Cup preview. Seriously, just enjoy the day, enjoy the race. It's one of the biggest races in the world. It's the biggest race in Australia, of course. It's the race that stops the nation. It stops me in the classroom every single time. And of course, this year I'll be watching it from my home, and I'll be watching it very, very closely. Now, I'll be back with another episode of the Big Group 1 Racing Show on Wednesday, Crown Oaks Day, and I'll be previewing the Oaks itself. Of course, Yankee Rose, I believe, is the big favourite for that at the moment, so I can't wait to preview the Oaks on Wednesday, the 2nd of November, on episode 11 of the Big Group 1 Racing Show. Of course, don't forget to follow me on Twitter for all my Melbourne Cup updates and tips. Until Wednesday's Oaks preview, I'm Jacob. Hope you back a winner. Bye for now.